Exercise 4.7. You are provided with information from the accounting records of drinks stores. 4.7.1. See point 2 below information. Analyze the differences under the given headings. Show the amount that would appear in the subsidiary journal or which will appear in the bank reconciliation statement, and mark no entry with an X if it is an required entry. 4.7.2, prepare the bank reconciliation statement on 31 March 2025. And then 4.7.3, the internal auditor determined that the outstanding deposit of 57,000 Rand on 4 March appears as 5,700 Rand on the bank statement for April. The amount on the bank statement is correct. Should the internal auditor be concerned about the error, explain why you say so, and provide one applicable control measure to avoid a similar incident in the future. So if you go to your information, we are given our bank reconciliation statement of last month. So to get our opening bank balance, it will just be our balancing figure. You're going to say 28,000 plus 24,000 minus 2,000 minus 13,000 minus 7,000, and then you will get your balance as the question mark. Then a comparison of the bank statement and the cash journal indicates the following differences. The bank statement shows a favorable balance of 10,225 on 31 March. A deposit of 24,000 appears on the bank statement for March, but not in the cash receipts journal. 2.3, a deposit of 50,000 Rand appears on the 4th of March in the cash receipts journal, but not in the bank statement. 2.4, an electronic funds transfer of 18,000 relating to rent received appears only on the bank statement for March. 2.5, bank charges of 1,400 Rand appear only on the bank statement for March. 2.6, the bank statement shows an electronic transfer by a debtor as a settlement of an account of 7,500 Rand after discount of 5% was allowed. 2.7, EFT 701 appears on the bank statement as 200 Rand. The amount on the bank statement is correct. EFT 702 appears in the bank statement as 1,300 Rand. The amount on the cash payments journal is correct. And then 2.9, EFT 709 appears correct on the bank statement as 7,000. Now that we've recorded all the entries, let's go and complete 4.7.1 on our answer sheet on the next page. So the first entry that we need to record is adjustment 2.1. It said the bank statement shows a favorable balance of 10,225 on 31 March. We know that a favorable bank balance will be on the credit side of our bank recon statement. So 10,225 will be on the credit column. And then let's also go enter that into our bank reconciliation statement. So credit balance according to bank statement is what you will write in your bank reconciliation statement, and it is 10,225. Then 2.2. A deposit of 24,000 Rand appears on the bank statement for March, but not in the cash receipts journal. So we will then, okay, so do you see that, but not in the cash receipts journal, so do you see that it was outstanding? If you go to information number 1, it's 24, and now you're going to go put it in the cash receipts journal according to 2.2. So 2.2 will have no entry. It's just a tick. Then 2.3. A deposit of 57,000 appears on the 4th of March in the cash receipts journal, but not on the bank statement for March. So since it does not appear on the bank statement, we are going to put it in our bank reconciliation statement under credit outstanding deposits. So let's go do that. So we're going to say credit outstanding deposits, 57,000 in the credit column of our bank reconciliation statement. Then 2.4. An electronic funds transfer of 18,000 Rand relating to rent received appears only on the bank statement. So in other words, we need to go and record that still in our cash receipts journal. So 2.4, we are going to have 18,000 in our cash receipts journal. Then 2.5, bank charges of 1,400 Rand appear only on the bank statement. So it means we need to go and correct it and still record it in our CPJ. So bank charges is an expense which goes to our CPJ 1,400 rand. Then 2.6. The bank statement shows an electronic transfer by debtor as settlement on an account of 7,500 rand after the discount of 5% was allowed. So always remember, we do not record the larger amount, we always record the amount after discount. So we are going to say 7,500 times 95%, which is 7,125. Okay, so just to show you the calculation for 2.6, it's 7,500 times 95% because you are getting a 5% discount. So we are only paying 7,125. So in our CRJ, we're receiving a discount. So we are going to record 7,125 in our CRJ column. The debtor is settling his account, so we are receiving money from our debtor. That's what goes to our cash receipts journal. Then 2.7. EFT 701 appears on the bank statement as 200 rand. Do you see at the top at information number 1, EFT 701 is 2,000. Now it says on the bank statement it is 200. The amount on the bank statement is correct. So in other words, EFT 702 needs to only be corrected in our CPJ. There was no error on our bank statement. The bank statement was the correct amount. So we are going to say 2,000 minus 200, which gives us 1,800 rand. So 2.7 will involve a calculation that I've just put in brackets. It's 2,000 minus 200, so the difference of 1,800 rand will go to our CRJ. The reason why it goes to the CRJ, instead of only paying 200 rand, we paid 2,000 rand, we paid too much. So we use the opposite journal to go fix that entry. The opposite journal of our CPJ is our CRJ. So we're going to put 1,800 rand into our CRJ journal. Then 2.8. EFT 702 appears on the bank statement as 1,300 rand. The amount in the cash payments journal is correct. So then you ask yourself, where did the error take place? This time not in my journal, it took place on the bank statement. So in other words, I'm going to have to fix my bank reconciliation statement. So in brackets, we are going to have a calculation. The difference of 13,000 and 1,300 rand will go to our bank statement on the debit column. So again, 2.8, we'll have a calculation. I'm just showing it to you in brackets. It's 13,000 minus 1,300 rand. So 11,700 rand will go to the debit column of your bank reconciliation statement. But then we also have to go and record it into our bank reconciliation statement for March. So we're going to say debit faulty EFT 702. In brackets, you'll put the calculation again. 13,000 minus 1,300 rand. So then in the debit column, we have 11,700. I'm just recording entry 2.8 into the correct statement, which should have been our bank reconciliation statement, so that we can rectify the error. So as I read the adjustment, I'm also putting it in the correct format of where it should have gone. Then 2.9. EFT 703 appears correct on the bank statement as 7,000. It was also outstanding as 7,000, so that is just a tick. It was outstanding, now it does appear, so there is no further error that we need to fix. Now let's go and complete, okay, so 2.9 at the top had no entry, so just make that at the last column no entry. It was just a tick. It was outstanding, but now it did appear, so it's tick. Now the last step is we must just go finish off our bank recon statement. So we're going to add up our credit column. If we add 57,000 plus 10,225, we get a total of 67,225. We know our debit side must then also equal to 67,225. So in other words, we have a shortfall on the debit side, so we will have a balance of 55,525 on the debit side, and it is a debit balance according to bank account. So this is just your balancing figure. I have in brackets the calculation for you, but it's basically you added up your credit side first, and then the shortfall on the debit side is 55,525, and that is then a debit balance according to bank account. 4.7.3. The internal auditor determined that the outstanding deposit of 57,000 Rand on the 4th of March appears as 5,700 Rand on the bank statement for April. The amount on the bank statement is correct. Should the internal auditor be concerned about the error, explain why you say so. Yes, most definitely. The difference is an amount of 51,300 Rand. This can have a material impact on the cash flow of the business and available funds for future payments. Provide one applicable control measure to avoid a similar incident in the future. Well, firstly, you can check your bank deposit slips against the amount in your CRJ and have segregation of duties so that one person completes the deposit slips and another person goes to the bank to go and deposit the money in the bank to avoid fraud and rollover of cash. Exercise 4.8. The information below is an extract from the records of Wally Traders. Required 4.8.1. Calculate the balance of the bank account on 31 July 2025. 4.8.2. Prepare the bank reconciliation statement on 31 July 2025. And 4.8.3. The internal auditor determined during his internal control procedures that an amount of 9,600 Rand received on 25 June from a debtor was only recorded on 21 July 2025 in the relevant subsidiary journal. Explain one control measure that can be implemented to ensure that a similar problem will not occur again. Then I'm giving you additional information. As I go through the additional information, we will go into it into our answer sheet directly. We have to calculate the bank balance on 31 July 2025. So I like to do a T account when it comes to my bank account. But before we can do a T account, we first have to calculate our opening bank balance as per bank account. So you're going to take your additional information one given to you and you're going to work backwards. So we're going to take our opening balance of our previous bank recon statement of 25,340. We're going to less our outstanding deposits and we're going to add our outstanding EFTs. And if we do that, we get a credit balance of 17,600. Now that we have the opening balance, we can start with a rough T account for our bank. So we know our bank, all our CRJ entries we will put on the debit side and all our CPJ entries we will enter on our credit side. So far we've got a credit balance of 17,600 Rand. Then we can go to adjustment number 2 and we will enter it as we read each adjustment on which side of the bank account it will go. Number 2 says the provisional total, CRJ is 145,800. So on the debit side I'll have my provisional CRJ total, 145,800. And on the credit side I'll have my provisional CPJ total of 75,200. Then number 3, a comparison of the bank statement of July with the journals for July shows the following differences. 3.1, interest on unfavorable bank balance 410. Well, I know interest on an unfavorable bank balance is interest on overdraft, so that is an expense, so that will go to the credit side of my bank account, 410. Then 3.2, a monthly stock order for insurance, 3,300. Insurance is also an expense which goes to the credit side of my bank account, 3,300 Rand. Then 3.3, a deposit of 12,400 Rand on 30 June does not appear in the cash journal. So do you see at number 1 there was an outstanding deposit and now it appears. So you can just tick it. So it's a double tick entry, meaning the error of last month was now rectified. Then 3.4, a deposit of 11,000 was made directly by the tenant for rent, appears only on the bank statement, which means we must still record rent income into our bank account. That will be a debit entry, 11,000. of my rough T account that I'm doing. Then 3.5, an EFT for 1,800 Rand for a debtor as settlement of his debt. So I'm receiving money from a debtor, so that will also go on the debit side of my bank account, 1,800 Rand, and my details is debtors control. Then 3.6, EFT 321 appears incorrectly on the bank statement as 2310. Now, because the error was made on the bank statement, it will have no effect on my rough T account for my bank balance that I want to calculate. But if you want to, you can quickly go and record this in your bank reconciliation statement, since we know that this error needs to be rectified in our bank recon statement. So you are going to say, it's for EFT 321. So debit faulty EFT number 321. In brackets, you're going to say 3210 minus 2310, so the difference is 900 Rand that we have to rectify. We are now informing the bank that they have still not rectified this 900 Rand increase. In 3.7, EFT 322 for 1450 appears correctly on the bank statement. If you go to the top of additional information 1, you will see there was an outstanding EFT 322 for 1450, and it is now recorded 1450. So it's just tick tick, means that entry has now been rectified. Then 3.8, EFT 340 for stationery appears in both the CPJ and on the bank statement. The bank statement shows the correct amount as 5,700 Rand, while the CPJ shows it as 7,050. So basically, no error took place on the bank statement, so we don't have to fix anything in the bank recon statement. But however, the error did take place in the journal. It was for an expense that we had to pay for stationery. Instead of paying 5,700 Rand, we paid way over, we paid 7,050. So we paid too much. So in other words, we have to rectify that error in the debit side of our bank using our cash receipts journal. So the difference is 1350, and that will go on the debit side of my rough T bank account that I'm doing, and it's for the correction of EFT 340 for stationery that was overstated. So if you're not sure how I got 1350 on the debit side, you can put in brackets, it's 7050 minus 5,700 Rand is a difference of 1350. Now we have entered all the transactions that will affect our rough T bank account, but let's just quickly read additional number 4, information number 4, so that we can complete that. It says the following items appear in the cash journals but not on the bank statement. I have an outstanding deposit and I've got 2 outstanding EFTs. So I'm going to say in my bank reconciliation statement, credit outstanding deposits, and it's to the value of 24,400 Rand in the credit column. And then I'm going to say debit outstanding EFTs. I've got 2 EFTs, 4.2 says it's number 349 and number 350. So number 349 and number 350. 2950 and 4750. So 2950 in the debit column for EFT number 349 and 4750 in the debit column of EFT number 350. So now we have recorded all our additional information on our answer sheet. So let's go tally up our bank account, because once we've got that balance, we can enter the balance according to our bank account at the bottom of our bank reconciliation statement. So if you go to the rough T account that I started with, we had an opening balance on the credit side of 17,600 Rand, and then under additional information number 3, we had quite a few entries that affected our bank account. We had provisional totals for CRJ and CPJ at adjustment number 2. And then we had rent income, debtors control, and correction of EFT 340 for stationery. That all had a debit effect on the bank account. And then we also had interest on overdraft and insurance that had a credit effect on the bank account. So if you add up your debit side, you get a total of 159,950. You know your credit side must also equal to 159,950. So the shortfall is our balance that we will carry over and bring down the next month, which will be August, and that's 63,440. So now we know that we have a debit balance according to bank account, and it is 63,440. So the last thing we can do now is we can now add up our debit column of our bank reconciliation statement to give us a total of 72,040. We know that our credit column is also equal to 72,040, but we only have 24,400 on the credit side, so that shortfall or that difference is 47,640, and that will be our balance according to our bank account, and it is a credit balance. It was simply just a balancing figure. Then the last question, 4.8.3. The internal auditor determined during the internal control procedures that an amount of 9,600 rand received on 25 June from a debtor was only recorded on 21 July in the relevant subsidiary journal. Explain one control measure that can be implemented to ensure that a similar problem will not occur again. As far as possible, try to get everybody to make payments to the business electronically. Ask debtors to make payments via EFT and send proof of payment, and always have separation of duties so that a senior person checks all receipts to prevent rollover of cash. Exercise 4.9. The information relates to Martina stores. Required. Analyze the given information with the help of the given example under the headings on the answer sheet. So let's have a look at the two examples. Example 1.1. A stop order for insurance, 2,600 Rand, appears only on the bank statement. So that means we are going to have to put this entry in our bank account. Stop order for insurance is an expense, so it will be credited in our bank account. So we will say details is insurance, and the bank account will be credited with 2,600 Rand. 1.2, an EFT for 890 Rand appears in the cash payments journal, but not on the bank statement. So in other words, this time the error took place on the bank statement, so that means we need to fix the bank reconciliation statement to make the bank aware of this error. We are making a payment, so we are going to say debit outstanding EFT, and it will be on the debit column of bank reconciliation statement, 890 Rand. As we read through the 8 transactions given below, I will read the transaction and we will go put it onto our answer sheet as I've read it. 2.1. The bank statement shows a direct deposit, 16,200 Rand, with regards to rent. So we know our details will be rent income, and it will be in the debit column of our bank account, 16,200 Rand. 2.2. A deposit of 7,890 for cash sales appears in the cash receipts journal. However, the correct amount of the deposit appears on the bank statement as 8,790. So we made an error. So 8,790 minus 7,890 is a difference of 900 Rand. Cash sales goes to my bank account. So we're going to say sales is my details, and in the debit column we are going to put 900 Rand. The amount on the bank statement was the correct amount. So we recorded 900 Rand sales too little, so we need to go put it into our CRJ. Then 2.3. A debit for interest, 1,900 Rand, appears on the bank statement. So a debit interest is not a favorable interest, it's an unfavorable interest, so we call it interest on overdraft. And that is an expense, so it will be in the credit column, 1,900 Rand. 2.4. An EFT payment for 18,900 Rand made for the payment of a salary of an employee was recorded in the salary journal and in the cash payments journal, but appears incorrectly as 1890 on the bank statement. So first of all, it involves a calculation. We are going to say 18,900 minus 1890 gives us a difference of 17,010. Now the error took place on the bank statement, which means we'll have to fix it in our bank reconciliation statement. So it was a debit EFT too little, will be our details, and it will be 17,010 in the debit column of my bank reconciliation statement. Everything in my CPJ and salary journal was correct. The error came from my bank statement, so that is why I'm only rectifying my bank reconciliation statement with that difference, which is 17,010. Then 2.5. An EFT payment 9150 for stationery was incorrectly recorded as 1950 in the cash payments journal. So now the error took place in the journal, so I'm going to have to fix my bank account. So again, it's going to involve a calculation. We're going to say 9150 minus 1950 gives us a difference of 7,200 Rand. We know that the details will be stationary, so we are going to credit our bank account with 7,200 Rand. We have to pay more towards stationery. Then 2.6. The bank statement shows a deposit of 1890 that was incorrectly added to the account of Martina Traders. We are Martina Stores, not Martina Traders. This deposit should have been added to the account of Ingrid Traders. So again, we have to inform the bank that they made an error, so we're going to record this in our bank reconciliation statement. The error was an amount of 1890, and it was for a faulty deposit. So we're going to say debit faulty deposit 1890 in the debit column of our bank reconciliation statement. Then 2.7, the bank statement shows a credit 289. The reference is bank charges. So if the bank statement shows bank charges as a credit, it means there's an error on the bank statement. So firstly, we need to go rectify that error, and then we have to place it in the correct format that it should have gone into. So we're first going to say debit bank charges wrongly credited as our detail. And we are going to say 289 times 2. Now, why I say 289 times 2 is we're first going to take it out of our CPJ, which is a debit, and then we're going to record it in our bank reconciliation statement as our second debit. And that gives us 578 in our bank reconciliation statement. And then the last entry, 2.8, the bank statement shows an EFT amount for purchases of inventory of 4,300 Rand incorrectly as a cash deposit of 3,400 Rand. So again, the error comes from the bank statement, so we've got to fix the bank reconciliation statement. We are going to say debit EFT wrongly credited. Again, it's 4,300 Rand plus 3,400 Rand, the amount that it should have been. So we are now having to debit our bank reconciliation statement with a total of 7,700 rand.